What is the first thing you always do when you come home? Put keys where keys live. Usually take a big sigh of relief that I'm back home again. Say hi to my dogs. They leave me no choice. Catapult my bra as far away from me as possible. Change into my comfy clothes. Edit. I have never felt such solidarity with so many people until reading through these comments. Comfy clothes gang. Open the refrigerator to save checkpoint. Put my keys in the key bowl in the entrance so I don't lose my mind trying to find them. Edit BC. So many mentioned hacking the fob. We live in a locked apartment building. We park our car in a locked underground parking lot across the street, so it would be quite a feat for someone to try and steal our car. Too much trouble for any car thief. I think we are safe, don't worry lol. Take off my shoes. Take as many clothes off as I can, especially my bra. Sneak into my apartment and put up my work gear and sneak to the top of the steps without making a sound. I then will spot my dog laying on her bed at the foot of my bed. She likes laying there when I am at work because she can see me as I walk up the steps. I try my best to not wake her and then silently lay on the floor next to her like I am asleep. I will keep one eye barely open and breath on her heavily to see her excited reaction to waking up and finding me laying next to her. I pretend to gripe about her waking me up, and then we go walkies. Afterwards we both get something to eat while I play video games for an hour or two before we call it a night and go to bed. Exchange greetings with the cats. Check to make sure there isn't a serial killing clown hiding behind the shower curtain. What is the most shameful thing you've nut to? When I was probably 12/13, my family had just gotten Wi-Fi for the first time, but it was the very beginning of Wi-Fi and it was awful. I had the upstairs room and couldn't download porn on my iPod, it would take ages, so instead I would go to the family computer, right in the middle of the living room, and download entire porn comics. The printer was old and would take a solid 45 seconds for each page, all while trying to be secretive. By the time I threw them away I had easily upwards 500 pages. All totally worn, of course. I was so ashamed of my bootleg porn comics that I snuck them on a family trip and sneakily threw them away when the family stopped at the Vince Lombardi rest stop in New Jersey. Edit. I thought I might also add that while being old and slow the printer was also loud as a hell, so in the dead of night I would print out the pages hoping it never woke anyone. Jerked off to what I thought was a couple one room over having sex. After hearing the closing shutdown sounds of windows and immediately hearing all sex noises stop, I realized that I had jacked off to another guy jacking off to porn on his laptop. I masturbated to the bad words in the dictionary when I was like 10. Sex. Orgasm. Penis. Took too much LSD in college in Boulder, walked all the way to the Flatirons at sunrise and got lost in the woods. A voluptuous tree was waving and calling my name. I walked over, hugged her, kissed her, and then came in my pants. A Lara Croft action figure bent over on the back of a toilet. Jessica Rabbit beach towel we bought from Disney World. Was on video chat in high school, back in like 2013/2014, with this girl who had serious depression issues. I could tell she was moving her hand in a weird way, and I thought to myself, damn, is she touching herself? I will too then. So I started touching myself and things got quiet, but we carried on a somewhat convo, just showing face. And after I finished very fast being a teen I asked her how she was feeling and she said I can't stop scratching my cut scars. Somebody please tell me they have the Reddit post saved where a guy accidentally beat it to Holocaust footage lol. The Sims. A ladder. I was 17, home alone, eating dinner and it was just propped up in the corner after we had painted the ceiling and were too lazy to put it back. The thought came into my head and I climbed it, jacked off and then sat back down to finish my dinner wondering what the fuck is wrong with me. I see so many entries from guys talking about their early shameful experiences. Here's one from a gal. As a 10 to 11-year-old, I just got my first phone. It was a Nokia flip phone, but it felt super advanced. It was one of the first ones with access to the internet, and I knew what sex was, but didn't really know how to find actual porn, and the mobile version of the websites took forever to load. I wound up grinding on one of my stuffed animals to a text post about a girl who fucked herself with carrots and potatoes and shampoo bottles. Then I eventually found a few photos with boobs in them. I humped my big stuffed animals like a dog. Then the phone company called my mom. I hadn't realized that the browsing cost money, and I had somehow managed to rack up almost $800 in data browsing bills. This was in around 2008, before most data plans I believe, at least for us. My mom didn't believe it was possible and said there must have been a mistake, and luckily they reversed the charges after some of her somehow miracle levels of charm and persuasion. She asked me about it and I broke down and told her I was looking at porn and masturbating. I distinctly remember her saying, well, this talk is happening at least 3 years before I expected it to. So yeah, 10-year-old me basically ruined a few stuffed animals to an old school internet mobile text website about a girl who fucked herself with vegetables, almost cost my mom $800, and have had to live with that shame forever. I was doing no FAP for like several weeks and was so horny that I just decided to hump the counter. Wasn't even thinking about anything, the thrusting just made me nut. Do dreams count? Because my very first wet dream as a teen was with a triceratops for some reason. The dream wasn't even sexual. Edit, great, my most upvoted comment of all time is about a wet dream with a dinosaur. An illustration in the AD&D Monster Manual. Edit, for those asking, it was the first ed nereid. So many levels of shame. Super horny 13-year-old in the early 90s. No porn at all because the internet wasn't everywhere back then. We lived in a 2-story house and the neighbor behind us was in a 1-story house. Single mother, 2 kids, boy and girl. Boy and I became friends. Met his mom a couple times. What they didn't know was that I kept spying on them. I already said shameful. No blinds or curtains in the back windows, which were the kitchen, dining room, and bathroom. The bathroom windows were frosted, but you could make out shapes. And it was obvious when mom was in there because of her height and figure. So, seeing the bathroom light come on and seeing her figure disrobe was an instant hard-on for a 13-year-old. One Saturday night I go to my room, I lay down and spy on the house. My buddy said that he and his sister were going to their dad's for the weekend. Mom will be alone. In my horny mind, I thought this would be a weekend of her walking around naked. So far disappointed. I spy in the dim dining room some action. I watch what I think is some aggressive fucking in the dining room. I start beating my meat. I think it is about time the neighbor mom gets some action, and about time that I can watch it. Keep in mind that I have not yet actually seen porn, and not actually seen anyone have sex. So, it should be of no surprise to learn that what I had seen wasn't the MILF getting plowed on her dining room table, but a houseplant being affected by the oscillating fan. Her kids went away because it was warm and her AC went out. I had jacked off to a houseplant. People who have 4+ kids, why? My parents had 3 of us back to back and dad got a vasectomy. 10 years later, they were in a good spot financially and we had extra space in the house, so they decided to adopt 2 sisters, ages 5 and 4. My dad was adopted as an older kid, so they wanted to make a difference in the lives of a couple of older kids too. Gotta share this story. So my friend is one of 6. The parents had 4 boys all in a row, and his mom wanted at least 1 girl. They tried again, they had twin boys lol. They were all built like brick shit houses too, so I asked him what's a meal like that look like? He giggles and said, we got fed a lot of potatoes. Why's everyone in this thread keep accidentally having triplets? My grandma has 6 children, my dad was the 6th. With every child they used a different birth control to see if that would help them not conceive more. Just before they had my dad, my grandfather got a vasectomy, but it turned out he had a 3rd tube and that's how my dad was made. With my mom, she said she always wanted 4 girls. She got 3 with my dad, no boys, and the 4th is my stepsister. My wife and I have 2 kids together. My sister has 2 kids. She decided she'd rather not take care of them. So I've had them for the last 10 years. I've been raising 4 kids for the last 10 years even though I only have 2 with my wife. Happy Father's Day all you fellow dads. People who have 4+ kids, how do you pay for all that? I don't have kids personally, but I am one of 12 siblings. 10 boys and 2 girls. Ages range from 10 to 43. As to why? We were a foster/adoptive home for over 20 years and unfortunately, the system is flawed and a lot of parents don't always meet the requirements to have their children placed back under their care. The goal is always reunification with biological family, but sometimes there are no valid placement options or extended family members willing to be their guardians. Every child my parents took in we treated as family, and when the state exhausted their options of reunification, we decided we weren't going to let them get put into the state-run group homes to get lost in the system, and we happily chose to adopt and make them officially family. It was organized chaos our entire lives, but none of us would have had it any other way. My former coworker. She only wanted 2. So after baby 1, she and her husband went to make baby 2. They ended up with baby 2, 3 and 4. Yep, naturally conceived triplets. Husband got a vasectomy after that. Not to brag, but we had sex 4 times. 2 stories of families with 5 kids. 1. My grandma and grandpa were on their honeymoon and saw a family of 5 beautifully behaved children, looked at each other, and decided they wanted the same. They had 5 kids in 5.5 years. It was hard at the beginning, lots of tight budgeting, but once my grandpa finished his medical training, things were a bit easier. The kids do all get along well and our family is very close. 2. I know a woman who has given birth to 5 kids from 4 different men over the course of 30 years. Only one was planned. Honestly, she's just really bad at using birth control correctly. Her life is really hard, and while she loves her kids, I honestly feel really bad for them. There's just no way they'll grow up unscathed after some of the stuff she's put them through. I'm one of 5 boys. Each one just under or just over 2 years gap, except oldest who are twins, so we all grew up pretty close in age. I can't speak to why my parents had 5 kids, but I can say that being one of 5 brothers was fucking awesome growing up. We wandered the neighborhood, looking out for each other and always having someone to play with. As we got older nobody fucked with one of us because you're gonna get jumped by 4 other dudes. Now we're grown up and starting to have kids, who all have lots of awesome uncles. Had our first child, easy breezy. We tried for maybe 1-2 months. 2 years go by, okay we're ready to try for number 2. Like a year and a half of no luck. Then, boom, triplets. Identical at that. Doesn't run in the families, no fertility drugs. Just dumb chance. 4 girls under 4. Please send help when they're teenagers. Family of 6 kids. My parents didn't want us to be lonely. Joke's on them, we're estranged from each other and I don't even know where some of my siblings live. Sort by controversial if you want to find happy parents. Had a tough time conceiving our first because my wife has PCOS. After our first was born the gynecologist told us to be careful due to a high chance of conceiving. We were careful for 6 months after, then one night we lost control and 38 weeks later triplets appeared.